Hi folks, welcome back to the shop here at Project Pine Hills. Today we're talking about this Klein Tools 14-in-1 impact rated flip socket set. The part number is 32914HD. You can see it comes in both SAE and metric. We'll talk about that. A quick look at the back, and you can pause the video and check out the sizes it comes with. You can see it has a powerful rare earth magnet for holding bits and fasteners, and it's made in Taiwan. All right, let's take a look at this. Now you can see right there on the handle, it's got Klein Tools stamped into it, and you can see that part number again, the 32914HD. If you look at the end of the handle, you can see they have stamped and inked impact 14-in-1 right there with the hex head shape around it. Now the way this works is you have all these flip sockets here, and you could take a 1/4-inch screw, for example, put it in the end there, and you can see it's magnetically retained. Now if I take that screw out, I can take this socket, I can flip it around to 5/16, and then I can put a 5/16 screw in there. And it also magnetically retains that screw. Now if I flip this back to the 1/4-inch, and I take a hex bit that's 1 inch long and I put it in there, I can then slide this socket up and you see it slides right over that bit. And now I can drive these bits. And you'll see it passes some magnetism to the bits. Now if I want to drive any of these other sockets on the socket rail, pull this socket rail out, take this socket off the end, take one of these sockets off, flip it around, and if I want I can stow the extra socket here on the shaft, put this in the tool, and now I can drive this 9/16 bolt, for example, and you can see it's also magnetically retained. Now that's how this works. If I want to run the metric sockets, I just pull this out, flip it around, put that socket rail back into the tool, and now I can run these metric sockets. You can see you have 7mm, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14. Now this end isn't quite designed to drive these 1-inch long bits, but it can do it. If you put a bit in there, you'll notice that if you put it up, it does hold it in there pretty well, so it would work, but not as good as the 1/4-inch side on the other end. So now you have access to all these metric sockets. So that's the idea. You have all this on you at one time. Now you can also take this socket rail off, and of course it'll work with your impact, right? You can pop it in there. Now these flip sockets aren't new. Klein's had them out for a while. They've been very popular. You can see here, for example, it comes in this 7-in-1 impact flip socket kit with handle. Now does this work with KNECT? Now Klein typically labels their packages either KNECT S or KNECT M. You can see KNECT S right there. But if you look at the package this came in, they don't put that on the bottom here, but I do think they may come out with KNECT L or large, and it'll be 7/8 12-point size right here in the center. So this is the 7/8 socket that you have here. You can see it's 12 points, and you can see in this case it has ball bearings on it. And the collet has this sort of center cutout to receive those bearings. Now you can see the concept for this is very similar to the Klein Impact 11-in-1. Except you can see it's much larger. On the Impact 11-in-1, you can pull out this shaft, and you can see it's the same thing on this 14-in-1. We pull out the shaft inside, and you have that collet there in the center. Now you can see the collet's much bigger here, and it doesn't have the ball bearing on the collet itself. The ball bearing's in the handle. Now you can also apply a wrench here to the outside of this. All right, let's check the size of this real quick. And you can see it comes in at 30mm or 1 inch and 3/16. So you could use a wrench on that to get more torque. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Klein's got KNECT S systems, which KNECT S is for small, like this starter kit we have right here, and this KNECT M system right here. Now, you'll see KNECT S or small is equivalent to a 1/4-inch ratchet, and KNECT M is equivalent to a 3/8 ratchet. You can see I have both of these pass-through ratchets with adapters in them. So Klein does KNECT L or large system. It should be equivalent with a 1/2-inch ratchet. So the KNECT system, of course, is a pass-through system. It has a pass-through ratchet you can see here. So I can put in this extension here, and you can see that's a pass-through system. And I could take 9/16 here, and you can see 9/16 would be able to pass right through. So that's the whole concept, right? And so KNECT S is just a 1/2-inch system. KNECT M is a 5/8 12-point system. And if this is going to be part of the KNECT L system, then that means it should be equivalent to a 7/8 12-point. Now, if I take the adapter out of this kit, I can adapt this to a 1/4-inch, which means now it will work with the Klein 14-in-1. So I can pop that in there, put that in there, and that'll work. You take this out and flip it around, but you'll see that 9/16 won't fit down in the handle. But if I take the 9/16 off, and I grab the 1/2-inch out of the kit, you'll see that does fit down in the handle, and you can run that. So that means you can run all these sockets on here up to a 1/2-inch, but you can't run the 9/16. Now, of course, this is KNECT M, and it means it won't work with KNECT M. You can see I can take this extension, and it will not fit down into this handle. So it will work with Klein KNECT S, but it doesn't work with Klein KNECT M. So what is this compatible with? Well, you can take these sockets out of the 1/4-inch hex collet, and it's going to fit any other collet. So here is the Klein Tools Impact 11-in-1 ratcheting screwdriver, and I can pull this bit out of the collet on this one. I can pop in this one from the new 14-in-1. You can see that's compatible. And now you have these ratcheting sockets, so that works together. Of course, we can take this ratchet and this 1/4-inch adapter. We just put them together. And now I can turn these sockets with this guy. What else does it work with? Of course, it'll work with Klein tools, 14-to-1 adjustable. You can just pop that in there. Of course, that gives you 12 bits in the carousel and the ability to drive the bits here with that 1/4-inch socket that moves up and back. It'll work with the Klein tools 16-to-1 impact driver that have the bits in the handle. We just pull this out of that 1/4-inch collet. Of course, you can pop those sockets right in, and this will turn bits. That means you can drive any of the bits here in this carousel of this guy. So that's another really nice compact setup there. And then of course it'll work with the Vim or Icon mini ratchet as well. And it'll work with the new 711L mini ratchet. It's optimized for Klein. You just take this ratchet, put the extension through, take off one of the flip sockets, and the 711L has been designed to work with Klein. You can see it fits right on there, and it works with this small ratcheting flex head ratchet. And it can run the larger sockets as well. You see I can put the 9/16 on here, and it fits on there just as well. Or I can take this Vessel cordless screwdriver, same thing, I can pop it in there and drive those sockets. You have all kinds of compatibility since this is a 1/4-inch standard collet. Now here's that new Klein quad socket with 2 sizes on each end of the flip socket. And of course that'll fit in this tool as well. And then you can flip this around and insert this in the tool as well and use those quad sockets instead. And of course, if you wanted to, you could take these sockets, pull them out, mix and match it. You could take the bits off this Impact 11-to-1 ratcheting, pop that out of the collet here, put those in there. And take this guy here and we can pop that out, flip it around. That'll drop right down in there. That works fine. Now, if you do want to keep this bit on the end and flip this around inside, it's not going to work. You can see it bottoms out there at the bottom, doesn't quite fit, so that's not an option. Or you could take something like this Klein hybrid bit set here, and I can take out this 3/8 adapter. Of course, it's 1/4-inch, and I can take that and pop that in there, and of course I can drive any of these sockets. 9/16 socket right there, and of course with this big handle, you have a tremendous amount of torque on there. The handle is chunky, I will say that. Let's get a quick measurement on that. Now you see the handle on this tool comes in at about 35.5 millimeters. Let's compare that to the Impact 11-to-1. If you check that, it comes in at about 31 millimeters. And of course, if we check the 16-to-1 Impact, it's going to be even smaller. It comes in at 30.8 millimeters, so even smaller handle there. So this does have a big, beefy handle. Now you can see these socket rails measure about 5 inches in length. So that means you can fit anything that's 5 inches long down into this handle. Just keep in mind you have to also fit this diameter. And you can't have a diameter any wider than about 19 millimeters because this 9/16 socket just fits into this handle. And this 14 millimeter socket is the same way. It just barely fits in there with just a little bit of play. So if we collapse this stuff down, and of course with Modbox, it's all compatible, so I can just stack these up on top of each other. Let's see how this fits in this Vito Pro Pack Tech MCT. So open that up, I put it back in one of these back pockets. You can see it fits in there pretty well. Plenty of room at the top. Let's see how it fits in the new Vito SP MC bag. We drop it down in there, you can see that it just fits and you can still shut the bag. And here's how it fits in the SPMC pouch here they have on the side. You can see it there in the center pocket. Probably fits better in one of these side pockets that have pass-through. You can just push it down in there and it stretches in. And here's how it fits in the Vito Pro Pack MP1X. You can put it in the center pocket in the middle, or you can put it in one of the side pockets that pass through, and you'll see it passes right through and comes out here at the bottom. And you can still use the kickstand. All right, let's get a length on this handle. Let's check that out. You can see it's about 6 inches in length there. You can see if I go out to this metal collet where I hook there, we'll go down and look at the tape measure, and you can see it's about 6 3/4 of an inch. And now let's check the length of the overall tool, and you can see it comes in at about 11 inches. All right, let's get a quick weight on this tool. It comes in at 1 pound and 4 ounces. Let's compare that to the Klein Tools Impact 11-to-1 ratcheting screwdriver. That comes in at 9.7 ounces. Well, there you have it. That's the Klein Tools 14-to-1 impact rated flip socket set. I'll have a link in the description below. Let me know in the comments what you think of this tool. Do you think it's too large? Think it works perfectly for what you're doing? I think it's going to depend on your use case. And please remember to like and subscribe. All those actions help me to continue to bring content to you here on the Project Pine Hills channel. And with that said, I'll catch you in the next video.